All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Mainly Hoops podcast. We're continuing on with the Big Ten. This is actually our last team that we're covering with their transfer portal. We got the Oregon Ducks. Oregon made a few moves in the offseason. We're going to start it off with Marcus. Marcus, who was your favorite move that they made this offseason?
I guess it's TK Simpkins coming over from Elon. He's kind of a longer, bouncy guard. He showed the ability to kind of explode at the rim occasionally. Take some tough shots, though, but seems to have some pretty good body control, craft in the mid-range. Solid shooter, almost 37% from three on 145 attempts last year. So, I mean, I think he's a solid get for them to complement Jackson Shelstad. They only made 4 moves here. Wasn't overly thrilled with any of them, I guess. But I guess Simpkins would be the best get, in my opinion, just based on the others.
Cody, who are you going with?
Yeah, I would agree. And they didn't really have to do that much. I mean, they kept Shelstad, they kept Kwame Evans, and they kept Nate Biddle. I mean, Shelstad and Biddle are probably they're probably 2 top 50 players in the country. So they didn't really have to do a ton from a star power perspective. So, but I would say TK Simpkins is probably the best guy they brought in. Like Marcus said, he's like a lankier 2-guard with some bounce, and he made an efficiency leap shooting wise from his sophomore to junior year. He was 28% on a lower volume to 37% last season. And his shot diet really changed from his sophomore year to junior year at Elon. 26% of his field goal attempts were at the rim in 2023-24. Compared to last season, it was just 14%. He just got way more perimeter reliant than before. I mean, his free throw attempt rate was 61% 2 years ago. It was just 37% last year, which I guess brings up some concerns because I'm not over the moon about him as a shooting talent. I just think it's a slowish release. He's better off the catch than he is off the bounce, which I think can be important here. But from a shooting talent perspective, I'm not all that high on him. And his usage rate, was 30%. And he did struggle off the bounce a bit. And his overall effective field goal percentage was around 50%. So not fantastic, but I do think he could be a solid complementary piece here. He's not going to be averaging 16 a game like he did last season, but I would consider him an average offensive impact from a complementary standpoint.
Any other transfers that are notable or that you guys want to talk about, Marcus?
And they got a couple really good athletes. Devin Pryor from Texas, mainly just a transition guy off the dribble. He's not a shooter, but I'd consider him an A+ athlete, lob threat. Lanky wing. And then Des Lindsey, who we don't really have a ton of tape on, but on YouTube, Florida Southwestern highlights from 23-24. I mean, he seemed to show some bounce there, knocked down some threes. So I guess we'll see with him. Don't have a ton to go off of. And then Sean Stewart, everyone's favorite, once a top 25 recruit, now at his third school in 3 years, Duke, Ohio State, now Oregon. Seems to always be in foul trouble. It's super frustrating to watch. But I mean, he is a solid rebounder. I mean, 27% defensive rebound rate, decent on the offensive glass. But I'm just not a fan. I've never really been a big fan of his game. But he does all right on the glass, 6% block rate. So I guess he's fine.
Cody, anything you want to add to these other transfers?
Yeah, Devin Pryor's interesting. I mean, we haven't seen a ton from him. Honestly, I mean, he's a really good athlete. I think he fits the mold as a super athletic wing in the Oregon system. I mean, it kind of seems to be the route that Altman always takes. So he takes some super athletic guys with upside. But I do kind of like what he did with Sean Stewart. He's not going to have to play as big of a role here with Kwame Evans and Nate Biddle kind of manning the front court or most of the front court minutes. I mean, he's an elite rebounder. I mean, last year he had a 10% offensive rebound rate, 27.4% defensive rebound rate, and like Marcus said, 6% block rate. And I think his defense is fairly underrated. He can defend at the floor while still being able to provide a ton of rim protection. He's just a freak athlete with a ton of bounce and physicality. Obviously, the feel aspect of his game really isn't there at all. It doesn't have a ton of touch as like a short roll man. It would be nice for him to be able to operate in that a little bit, but there's just really no feel with the floater game. No real post up game from him either. And you talked about him being a little bit of a hack. How was 7.5 fouls per 40 minutes for you? It's pretty crazy.
I have two questions here. First question, how many minutes a game you think he gets?
I would say somewhere in the 12 to 15 minute range. It's going to depend on foul trouble from night in and night out, but I do think he's the third big in this rotation. So I could see him getting, 15 to 17.
Follow-up question. How many times does he foul out in those games?
I knew that was coming.
I mean, it's got to happen at least once or twice.
Right. I mean,
he's going to go in there for 12 to 15. He's going to naturally play even more aggressive than he was playing before when he was like in the starting lineup last year.
He might commit 3 fouls in the first 5 minutes he's in the game. We've seen that. We've seen that song and dance before.
Right. But I don't think it's as important right now.
No.
Because he's going to be playing that 12 to 15 minute per game role. Just trying to go back and see how many games he fouled out of last year. I mean, he fouled out of 7 or 8, I believe, and he was playing 20 minutes a game. So I think it could get close to that. Maybe 3 or 4 times.
Absolutely.
I do think the areas that he excels in that makes him intriguing as like a third or fourth big, because there's obviously a lot of issues with, the scoring aspect or any sort of feel outside of the paint. He turns the ball over a ton too. So, but yeah, I think he's a solid complimentary big, solid third big.
He had a nice stretch there where he fouled out 3 in a row. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Not great there, but at least it won't be emphasized as much.
No.
Besides the given foul trouble, what do we expect from this Ducks roster going into the next season?
I mean, I've always been very high on Jackson Shelstad. Like Cody said, they have 2 guys in Shelstad and Biddle that are like top 50 players in the country. Shelstad will be one of the best guards in the Big Ten. Like he said, brought in some guys that fit the Oregon mold of being like long, lanky wings. And, if they can get more out of Pryor, whatever Des Lindsay might have to offer, remains to be seen. But, I think like similar to what we talked about last year, Kwame Evans is kind of an X factor again. It's like, he's really going to determine their ceiling and floor. I think like he's going to have a much bigger role this year, and they're going to need him to produce. Like he was a very highly touted recruit coming into college, hasn't really panned out up to this point. I've always been kind of high on the upside. So, I think, we'll have to see how he improved this offseason, what steps he's going to take to really set the bar for like ceiling and floor for them. But I think like if he sniffs the upside, I think he's capable of. I think they can be, a sneaky, pretty good team. Like all Dana Altman teams typically are.
Cody, let's hear from you. What are your expectations? And then maybe a ceiling and floor to wrap things up.
Yeah, I think they have a high floor just because I think the defense is going to be really good. Like this roster across the board projects to be pretty solid. Like I said, there's athleticism on the wing to go with the front court of Kwame Evans and Nate Biddle, who are very solid in a lot of areas on the defensive side. It's the offensive side I worry about a little bit from a ceiling perspective. The floor is fine just because they have a lot of returning production with Shelstad and Biddle, especially with that talent level. Shelstad didn't really exceed my expectations last season. I thought he would make a little bit more of a leap as a playmaker. He didn't really get there. He thrives more in transition, struggles a little bit in the half court as a creator. So that kind of hurts the ceiling for me. And then there's some pieces, some complementary pieces that, I mean, don't really shoot the ball all that well. So I'm a little bit worried about the offensive side of the ball. And then you mentioned Kwame Evans, obviously he needs to improve on the offensive side. That's kind of limited him his entire college career. But I do think they're a tournament team just because the defense is going to be really good. I think it's going to be a top 3 or 4 defense in the Big Ten. But the offense is going to hold them back some. I could see them being on the bubble. I think they end up along like the 7 line.
Any final thoughts, Marcus? Maybe a more specific ceiling floor.
Yeah, I think Cody's right. Like 7, 8-ish ceiling, like floor is maybe out, but I don't expect it. I think right on the bubble, maybe like 10, 11. I think they're pretty narrowed in as to what they can be. Just offensive limitations and just unknowns. But no, I think like, again, like these West Coast teams, to wrap things up on my end, like I like Jackson Shellstad a lot. I was really high on him coming into last year, really high on him, after watching him play like once or twice as a freshman. So, we'll see what steps he takes, and I'm excited to, get less sleep and watch the Oregon Ducks.
Cody, any final thoughts? Going to stay up till 2 a.m. watching the Ducks, or?
Yeah, that's a given. I'm going to watch it anyway. I'll probably be watching some low-level mid-major at 3 a.m. I mean, it's just what I'm up to. But just a thought. I mean, I wish there was another high-level creator next to Shellstad to really raise this team's ceiling. Shellstad, I think he kind of needs that other guard that he can, hand the ball off to and let him go to work a little bit. I think they had it a little bit last season with guys like Barthélemy and Bamba, but this season doesn't really project to be as great. Like Simpkins can do it at times, but I just don't think he's going to provide all that much efficiency throughout the entire season. So, but I mean, I do like watching Shellstad, and I really like watching Nate Biddle play as well. And I'm pretty excited that he was able to come back for another year.
All right, we'll wrap things up here. As always, thank you for listening to the Mainly Hoops podcast.